There is a kind of power that announces itself through absence, not through declarations, not through arguments, through what a man refuses to say. History remembers its loudest figures, but it obeys its quietest ones. This is the story of a man who outlived a king, a revolution, and an emperor without ever raising his voice. And in his silence is a law of human nature you're about to understand. In the final years of the 18th century, France was a machine built to destroy men. It devoured kings. It devoured revolutionaries. It devoured the very people who built it. To survive one regime was fortunate. To survive two was remarkable. Charles-Maurice de Talleyrand survived four: the monarchy, the revolution, Napoleon's empire, and the restoration that followed it. And he did so while sitting closer to power than almost any man alive. His enemies called him treacherous. His allies called him unreadable. Both were describing the same trait. Talleyrand almost never told anyone what he actually believed. In rooms where powerful men postured, argued, and revealed their ambitions in every sentence, Talleyrand said little, watched everything, and let his silence do the negotiating. At the Congress of Vienna in 1814, France arrived as a defeated nation. The victors, Austria, Russia, Prussia, Britain, expected to carve up Europe without France at the table. Talleyrand had almost no leverage. What he had was patience. He did not argue for France's interests directly. He waited. He let the victors begin to distrust one another, let their own ambitions surface in the silences he left open, and inserted France back into the negotiation not by demanding a seat, but by becoming useful to the disagreements already forming between his rivals. France left Vienna with far more than a defeated nation had any right to expect. He is remembered for one particular line, spoken so often it became his signature. Speech, he said, was given to man to disguise his thoughts. He did not mean deception for its own sake. He meant something colder and more useful, that most people hand over their position, their fear, and their intention the moment they open their mouth, and the man who withholds his keeps every option alive. What Talleyrand understood, long before anyone had a name for it, is something modern psychology now calls information asymmetry. Every time you speak, especially under pressure, you reveal something: your priorities, your fear, your next move. The person who listens more than they speak accumulates information. The person who speaks more than they listen gives it away, usually without noticing. Organizational psychologist Eric Eisenberg described a related idea he called strategic ambiguity, the deliberate use of unclear or withheld communication to preserve flexibility, avoid premature conflict, and keep multiple future options open. What looks like evasiveness from the outside is often, from the inside, a calculated refusal to commit before the full picture is visible. There is also a simpler mechanism at work, one you have felt yourself. Silence is uncomfortable. Most people cannot tolerate it. When a pause stretches too long, they rush to fill it with an explanation, a justification, an offer, sometimes a confession they never intended to make. The person who can sit inside that discomfort without flinching gains a strange kind of leverage. They are not doing anything. They are simply refusing to rescue the other person from the silence. And the other person, almost always, gives something up to end it. You do not need a Congress of Vienna to see this play out. It happens in salary negotiations, where the first person to name a number usually loses ground. It happens in arguments, where the person who responds instantly from emotion hands the other side exactly the reaction they were hoping for. It happens in meetings, where the person who speaks first and most reveals their position before they've heard anyone else's, while the person who listens, asks one sharp question and says little, walks out having learned the room without having been read by it. We live now in an era that punishes this instinct. Everyone is expected to react immediately, to have an opinion ready, to fill every silence on a call, in a comment section, in a group chat, which means the discipline to withhold, to simply not answer yet, has become rarer than it has ever been. And rarity, in any form of power, is what makes it valuable. From Talleyrand's example, and from what psychology confirms about how people behave under the pressure of silence, 3 laws emerge. Law 1. Never reveal your full position before you understand theirs. The first person to fully explain themselves in any negotiation, argument, or relationship has given the other side a map. Let them show their hand first. Law 2. Let silence do the interrogating. You rarely need to ask the hard question directly. Leave space after a statement, and most people will fill it themselves, often with more truth than they intended to give. Law 3. Withhold judgment until the moment it has the most weight. Reacting instantly spends your influence for nothing. Reacting late, deliberately, when it actually changes the outcome, is where real power lives. In a world addicted to noise, the quiet mind becomes invisible, and the invisible cannot be defeated.